So, in the Swedish market, Spotify started in 2008 there, and has grown and has really become the predominant music force in Sweden. And so, I wanted to take a look at first of all what it looked like there in terms of the effect on the overall business. And right now, well, this is probably as of about 2 months ago, Spotify has about out of a population of 9 million. People, every man, woman, and child, there's a million premium subscribers in Sweden. And in addition to that, probably anywhere between 3 to 4 million people who are Spotify users who have, listened through the ad revenue generated model. And the effect that it's had on the business has been pretty profound. Revenues overall in Sweden have gone up, not by huge leaps and bounds, but it's definitely gone up, and it's been on an upward trend for the last couple years, which has been in sharp contrast with things are leveling out here in the States. But by and large, that's not been the story, and revenues generated by Spotify have definitely helped. Where it's kind of taken the the numbers on iTunes have actually stayed pretty flat in Sweden, whereas the physical retail market is really in collapse now. There in Sweden, and so but overall, the business is very robust.
One of the reasons why we wanted to do this is because in order for Spotify to launch in the U.S., they had to actually acquire licenses from all the various rights holders, as opposed to a service like Pandora, which is relying on compulsory licenses. So they had to actually negotiate with the major rights holders and entered into agreements with the major labels for these rights. There has not been much of any transparency. We know some things about those negotiations. We know that the major labels and Merlin representing the Indies have some equity in the company, and we know that there was some money changing hands. And other than that, and we've been informally asking just about everybody we can. We really don't know much about those negotiations or those deals. They're very much confidential. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this.
I was just going to raise one point. One of the things we had talked about and people have been speaking of is, do major artists, big artists, make more money in the stream than a smaller artist makes? Does an indie artist just proportionally make less money, or not the same for an individual play? And when I looked at the music publishing side, at first I thought, no, it can't be the case, because it's a compulsory rate. It's 10.5, and the math should be the same. But I think that in fact there is a situation where indie artists and artists that do not have the stature and the team in place and the infrastructure aren't making as much money. And I think, John Simpson, you had referred to a digital black box, and I think that's what's happening now. I think that increasingly you've got these DIY artists who they're trying to do everything themselves. They're trying to be their own record label, their own booking agent, their own manager, their own social network coordinator, etc. And they don't get time to go to ASCAP. They register as writers as BMI, but they don't register their individual songs. So what happens is they're not getting on the databases, and then meanwhile you've got Spotify and Rhapsody trying to find 10, 12, 15 million rights holders, and they're not showing up. Second thing that's happening, I think, is those same DIY artists who may have a big indie following, we're playing all the time on Spotify, they're not doing sub-publishing deals. So when there's performance in the UK, Italy, no one's claiming the songs with the society, they're not getting paid. The other thing I think that may happen is on the performance slice, they may not be hitting the threshold that a society has to pay out. So in fact, Lady Gaga is going to be making a lot more money, and the artist that we found, the Athens artist who's trying to do everything themselves, is going to be getting zero, not because of the fault of Spotify, but simply because of the way that the system is now working.
One thing I don't think we really addressed is there is a lot of artist discontent about this, and a lot of that's just the murkiness of it. And we've tried to dig into it ourselves and give you the benefit of some of that, but there's a lot of murkiness to it. And there's a reason for that artist discount, whether they're major artists like the ones that are in the headlines for holding off Spotify, or developing artists, or people making these decisions, whether it be on iTunes or whether it be on Spotify or the other services. there is a lot of sort of mystery still involved, and that's after having spent a good bit of time thinking about this, talking with you guys about it, looking at some data. I think it's for, there are some reasons for that.
As an artist manager, we face a lot of problems. I mean, for me, the biggest problem that we face in breaking developing acts is there's no one helping us on the editorial side expose new bands. You find that radio doesn't play new bands. You find that MTV doesn't play music. You find that Pitchfork hates everything. And so when you get a check from anywhere that's $3,200, that's $2,400, that's whatever, that's a check that we weren't getting before. And when you have a service like Spotify, my biggest critique of Spotify itself is that they don't do enough to editorially promote the artists that are featured there. And they've always said that they're not supposed to be an editorial service. It's supposed to be meritocracy, and if whoever's listening to what, that makes the charts, and whatever 8 records are being played are the new records to watch, and that's fine. That's their right. But it's for me as a manager, I get really excited about the idea of something like Spotify, because it's money I wasn't making before because people were stealing it, and 2, I've come to just expect to get fucked by my record label. But when I look at something like Spotify, and you look at the 5 people here, between the 5 of us, we know a lot of people. We have access to people who know things that most people don't know, and we could not crack anyone to give us any information about what the major labels' deals were with Spotify, correct? We can't find anything. We know they got equity. We know they got money. We know that our artists don't share in the equity because that's not the way labels work. And we know that we will never know what the advances they actually got were, and those advances are not being paid down to our artists. So at the end of the day, that's just going to happen. And I would like to say that I haven't given up on the idea of a record label being transparent, but if they wanted to be transparent with us, they'd be transparent with us.